Hi, my name's Dr. Padilla. I'm a professor in computer science and psychology, and I've been a professor for over 5 years now. Today, I wanted to talk about a topic that I get lots of questions about, and I see lots of students doing this wrong, even senior PhD students, and that is the academic CV. You're going to need an academic CV when you're applying to PhD programs. Also, when you are finishing up your PhD and applying for faculty positions, you will need it as well. It's very, very important, and it can be very confusing because you might not have made this type of CV before. There's lots of these subtle insider tips and tricks, things that people will expect, things to not include, that you will want to have in your CV to show that you are the best candidate. So what I've done is to make a Google Docs template that you can copy and use, and I'll walk you through the various components, describing what to include in those sections and what not to include. So let's jump on in. All right, I thought I would actually start by showing you my CV. Now, don't be scared. This is a CV of a professor, but I just wanted to show you how long they can be. The first major thing about these academic CVs is that they can be as long as they need to be, right? Many, many pages. Don't worry about page length. You want to put everything in the CV. For example, mine is 10 pages long, and there are sections like journal articles that go on and on and on, right? Things like, I think I have posters or invited talks here. They go on and on and on, etc. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this because it is very expected to have these long CVs. They need to be comprehensive. So here's the template that I put together that's based on my CV. It is in Google Doc. You can copy it and use it any way you'd like. I'd recommend changing some of the typefaces, the fonts, to make them feel more like yourself. But by and large, these are the sections that you're going to want to have in relatively the right order for your application. So starting at the top, you absolutely need your full name. You want to put your current university and current department. If you're in school right now, put that location. If you're in a role, put that information here. If you're at a particular university in a role, put that information here. This is where you're going to add your specific contact information. They will pull this out if they want to contact you, hopefully to give you a job or a position. The next parts are pretty straightforward. This is where you just list the specific degrees that you have. You want to put this on top because a lot of times people are applying for jobs that they're not qualified for. So you want to make sure that they're aware that you're qualified for the job. Now, you might be at the end of your PhD and you might not have your dissertation yet. So you could actually include that here. You could say all but dissertation. That's a very common phrasing that people know about. If you're several years out from getting your dissertation, or you aren't going to get your dissertation at all, you're not going to get a PhD, do not include this here. It's really for individuals who are applying for faculty positions, maybe in the fall, but they're defending in the spring. They don't actually have their PhD, but they're still applying. So that's very, very common. Here we have academic appointments. This is where you'll want to include if you were a graduate research fellow, if you were a lab research assistant. That is going to be very critical. Oftentimes you see individuals applying for graduate school, they'll have several of their lab position roles listed here, including the lab, and maybe even a little bit of information about the type of work they did in that lab. But that's where you would place it right here. If you were an RA, you would list it. If you had any other positions, you would list it. Other professional experience is, of course, optional. You only want to include professional experience that is relevant for the degree. So if you've had another job that is not relevant, don't include it. I know it's hard because you spent so much of your life building up all of these skills and other jobs, but they're not going to be relevant unless they're academic related. So just don't include them unless they're related. The next one is externally funded grants. I notice I have a difference between externally funded grants and internally funded grants. External grant is outside of your university where you applied for something competitive, like a national grant or award, something like that. You would list it here. This is among the most important things that people will be looking for. If you have one of these externally funded grants, you get a big check mark and they're really excited about your application. That's why you put it at the top of these CVs. The overall logic is you lead with the most compelling things that you have done. So if you have any externally funded grants, they absolutely go here and up high in the CV. Internally funded grants are where you have grants from the specific university for which you were currently employed. There's a lot of smaller grants that you have access to. This might be professional development grants, maybe thesis awards that you applied for, that type of thing. Those are seen as slightly less prestigious because they have a smaller application pool, just the people at your university. So you put that a little bit lower, but it's still good to have those. Next are honors and awards. These are ones that are not necessarily scholarly. So you might have an award for the best TA or best poster award or the Dean's List, something like that. These are things that you didn't do a large application where you competed against everyone, but you were given an award for some various function. So they can go here and you can list them in bullet points to kind of highlight that you have lots of these awards. The interesting part is that people never apply for these awards. At universities, we often have just so few applications for these awards. So if you really want to pad your application, apply for every single award at your institution for which you qualify. All right, getting more into the meat of the application are journal articles. If you published any journal articles, they go here. I like to number them because in other types of documents, you might be writing a cover letter, for example, and you can say something like, I have 8 peer-reviewed journal articles, and they can look at your CV and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? It makes the job much easier if it has numbers associated with them. Now you want to use a style guide that's appropriate for your field. What I recommend is if you have currently published work, you can go to your Google Scholar page. This is a Google Scholar page for one of my citations, and pro tip, I like to just look at this citation button here and find the appropriate style guide for a particular citation. Like I might use this APA style, and I will copy this directly over into my CV. Another question that I get asked a great deal is what to do about in-press manuscripts. This is a manuscript that you have submitted and it has been officially accepted, but it has not been, released to the public just yet. There's 2 ways to do it. Within your journal articles or these other sections, maybe it's a conference proceeding, you can have an in-press section, and then you would include the author, year, because you should know when it's going to be published that year, the journal name, and in-press. You won't know the specific volume number or pages just yet, but you will know the year, and you can say that it is in-press, and that's absolutely legal. Next I have is conference proceedings. I have separated this out, but some fields consider conference proceedings and journal publications as the same. If that is the case for your field, you can delete this conference proceedings section and include the conference proceedings just in these journal articles, but some fields see them as 2 very different things. The next one I put under conference proceedings because it's a little less prestigious than conference proceedings. You'll see that I'm ranking these in order of how important they are. It is manuscripts under review. Now the rule of thumb is if the manuscript has been submitted, you can put it in this section as under review. You're not necessarily going to know when it's published, but you can include the year and the title of the manuscript that's under review. The other category that I don't have on here, but you can definitely add with some caveats, is manuscripts in preparation. You might have several manuscripts that you're writing right now, and you might want to include them in the CV. That is okay, but there's a general rule of thumb that it needs to be at least 80% completed to make it on your CV. So if you've really not started writing this manuscript, you cannot put it in preparation, okay? I've actually seen this hurt some applicants. I've seen people apply with a manuscript in preparation that included an author list. And I knew one of the authors, so I wrote them and said, what do you think about this paper? They had never seen the paper. They didn't even know that the person who submitted this was actually writing it. So obviously way too soon to put that in preparation. But if it's truly about 80% completed, you can add a section here. I think I would do it right under manuscripts under review for manuscripts in preparation. Okay, next up is book chapters. We tend to see that book chapters are regarded as a little less prestigious because they tend to not go through the same peer review process, so I put it here. This is a really good one if you want to start to pad your CV. Consider submitting to more workshops. They usually only require an abstract, and it's a really great CV line to add. Now, many fields might have government or technical reports, even patents. You can add these here, and that concludes the writing part of the CV. The next is about talks or presentations that you've given. So here I have invited talks. This is when you have been invited as a speaker to come out and give X talk, okay? This isn't, you're just at a panel giving a talk or you're giving a talk to your department. This is where you have been invited and you're an invited speaker. I put that at the top because that is the most prestigious type of talk that you can give. So you want to lead with that. The next are standard conference talks or panels. This is oftentimes people presenting a paper or research that they've done and or just participating in a panel. So slightly less prestigious, but both really good to add. So consider when you're going to conferences, try to do as many panel talks as you can. Again, a really good way to pad your CV. Probably the best way to pad the CV is with poster presentations. If you're not submitting poster presentations, you should be. Submit as many as possible, especially as a junior scholar. Even if you are an undergraduate researcher, you should be submitting to every single poster presentation at your university, and you can list them all here. It's a really great way to show that you have a long-standing dedication to research and you're building up a body of research over time. Okay, next section is professional service. If you've had any editorial roles, maybe you've edited a book or a journal, that goes here. Conference service also goes here too. A great way to add lines here is to volunteer as a student at a particular conference. Or if there's any type of kind of local presentation, you can volunteer there, and that can be included as service, which looks really good. Okay, just a few more. Next, we have teaching experience. If you have any teaching experience, even as a TA, you can add it here. So this is where you would indicate what course it was and what role you had in that particular course. Of course, if you are an instructor of record, that looks much better than if you were TA, but in any case, you can add them here. If you have advised any PhD, master's, or undergraduate students, you can include it here. This is primarily more for postdocs and faculty, but you might be in a position where you have an opportunity to mentor someone below you. If you are in that position, definitely take it because you can add it to your CV. Last two is professional membership and press and media. Professional membership is any type of organization that you have registered for. So there's major conference organizations. If you pay the fee to become a member and you sign up, you can add it here. Again, just another way to pad that CV. And finally, if your work has received any press or media, so this is any news reports about your work. This is if you've ever been interviewed by a podcast or a YouTube channel or a TikTok page for that matter, they can be all added here. This indicates that you're trying to get the word out about your research. And at the end, I like to add when this was updated so people know how relevant this particular CV is. All right, so I hope I didn't overwhelm you with all of those different categories. I in part wanted to show you an exhaustive list of all the things you could include on your CV so that you could think about ways to kind of bump up or bolster those sections of your CV. My CV has all of these sections. When you're a junior scholar, you're not gonna have all these sections. So if you don't have them, just delete that entire heading and section. That is really no problem. The trick is that you wanna build it up and be the strongest candidate possible. The last thing I wanna say is a note about styling. This is plain Jane vanilla CV, and that is okay. When you apply to industry jobs, oftentimes they encourage you to have kind of flashy, fun styling, really just to make your CV stand out. Okay, that's not necessarily the case in academia. It doesn't really matter if it's flashy or exciting. Sure, you might want to express your personality, by all means, go ahead. But really, we're looking for the meat of the CV. We want to know how many papers did you publish? Do you have grant funding? Have you taught classes? That type of thing. So you really don't need to worry about the aesthetics of it necessarily. Really focus on the content of the CV. I hope this was helpful. If you thought so, definitely hit the like button and subscribe for more content on academic success. To be clear, I actually do my CV in what's called Overleaf, and I write it in LaTeX. That helps me manage my citations much more easily. Please comment down below if you would like the Overleaf template. I can modify mine and just make it available for you. If I get enough comments, I'll go ahead and do that and then add it to the description of this video. Academia can be tough, but you don't have to go through it alone. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.